a very big subject and making it somewhat humorous. Okay, so our next speaker is Cyrus. He's worked for various justice campaigns. I'll welcome Cyrus to the platform.
Peace to everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for being here. Actually, I want to begin with a better thank you than that, actually, because this is the last of our 3 events this week. And so I want to begin first really by thanking our hosts here at the university. So thank you to all, to the ISOC here for hosting us. Please give everybody also, I want to thank our Irish hosts, the man of many names who stepped out, I guess, for a moment, but Owen, Yahya, Dragon, whatever you want to call him. We call him all of those things, leprechaun, whatever it is. We want to thank him, of course, for being a huge organizer, bringing us all here, connecting us. I want to thank Nasser and Cage and Horace and Zuleika from the Faruqi campaign. Kerry also from Cage as well. Thank you all for coming over from England. And to Dermot and Joanne also from the campaigns here. Ian for all your support this week. Really, I can't forget Sakib as well for who's been managing as well. Everyone who's come together to bring this tour together. It's really, it's been very meaningful for me. It seemed very meaningful for our audiences. It's been such a real opportunity to connect, and so I want to thank you all for that. I also wanted to thank Santino, who's been filming and producing content, so that way, no matter how large or small the audience, it keeps on growing by capturing these moments, by sharing this with the world. These videos are already being shared back home in New York, and so I know that people are getting excited that we're finally connecting some of the dots here which need to be connected, that we're here learning from people who've been doing this for 800 years, literally. We're fighting the same enemy that we have, and that we're finally really building a real solidarity, of course. While the culture of solidarity should have always been there, and it has been there, and it's been demonstrated time and time again, really now to actually be here in person, to actually really build relationships, build friendships, is really an important moment, which I don't want to take for granted. So I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this as well. And so to that, I applaud you. Thank you. So the benefit of having Santino film all of these events is that we can kind of stretch out our topics a little bit, and we can discuss different pieces of a very large puzzle. On Wednesday, I spoke about the importance of a shared history. I'm sorry, I hate suits. We talked about the importance of a shared history, shared cultural resistance, and just the mission that we have here this week in connecting these dots. Yesterday I spoke at some length, admittedly, about some of the long history and the context of imperialism, of imperial order, the logic that underlies this so-called war on terror today. And so today I'm going to focus more specifically. I'm going to focus more specifically on a number of cases, as my colleagues have also, that took place in the United States of America. Cases which, in my opinion, were instrumental in lowering the bar of what it takes to put a human being in a box for the rest of their lives. These cases they're emotional. I'm not going to go into such detail because these are either friends or friends of friends. But I'm going to do my best to share what is most relevant in explaining how grotesque really these miscarriages of justice are. And all in all, I'll try to keep it brief because I think I'm the last one holding this from a Q&A session, which I hope will also be robust. And I look forward to the discussion with all of you afterwards. The first one I wanted to mention was one that occurred early, actually, after the declaration of this war on terror, after 9/11. I believe it was in 2004, or around about that. The Holy Land Foundation, leaders of the Holy Land Foundation, an international charity, were charged. They were declared a terrorist organization actually soon after in 2001. But in 2004, they were charged, 5 men were charged, finally convicted of material support for terrorism. Now this material support law, you reminded me of it, Dermot, with some of the cases going back some decades. It's one of those laws, it's the gift that keeps on giving for the government, really. It's such an ugly one that the definition of which keeps on expanding. And the purpose of focusing today on the cases, on the judicial cases, rather than just the laws themselves, because even as bad as the laws look on paper, the way that the precedents are set is what continues to expand and continues to suck in more people into this prison system. The Holy Land Foundation was, as I said, an international charity, very mainstream. This wasn't a marginal charity, this wasn't some secret operation, this wasn't some underground type of movement. This was an organization which many Muslims in America donated to before 9/11. The money was used domestically as well as overseas. And what was the most controversial and what finally brought the case along was their focus on Palestine. The logic of the government, and this isn't conspiracy theory that I'm putting in my own words, the logic of the government in this case was that because the Holy Land Foundation was collecting zakat, was collecting charity, and distributing it in Palestine through local zakat committees, in West Bank specifically. And because these zakat committees were allegedly controlled by the Hamas movement in these regions, and because if they didn't give this money through these committees, then Hamas themselves, as a so-called terrorist organization, would have to then come out of their own pockets to provide charity for the orphanages that were specifically being supported there. Therefore, this American-based charity is providing material support for a terrorist organization. It's deep, right? And this was an early one. This was one that was a huge case. It was a way that the government actually sucked in almost every major Muslim organization into the case. They didn't end up convicting other groups, but by tagging them with a label of being tied to this trial of this great terrorism funding organization, they threw a big number on it, like $12 million or something, was sent to Hamas. It's been a war really for American Muslim groups just to detach themselves from this case, because unfortunately they're not eager to even get down to the logic of this case either, for fear of being sucked in further. This was one of the early material support cases. Although the material support law dates back to the 90s, this was one of those cases which really just lowered the bar much further. And actually leads me right into the second case, which I wanted to discuss further, although I should mention that the 5 men who were convicted finally in this case are all serving sentences between 15 and 65 years in prison. 65 years in prison for giving charity, for collecting and distributing charity to orphans, like to children, to feeding children in a land which is occupied. It's such a crime that these men, and these are not young men either, have been taken away from their families, from their children and grandchildren. And I've been blessed to work over the last few years with some of their families. These are beautiful people, beautiful families that continue to fight. They still have hope, they still have optimism to free their parents as they should, as they absolutely should. And we pray every day, every moment, that we pray that Allah frees them, that we are able to be part of that movement to free them, and that we'll be successful in that. I'll skip ahead to the second one. And this is our brother Tariq Mahana. This case was always, I think, especially disturbing to me. I was already conscious of these cases and working directly on some of these cases. The case of Brother Tariq, I don't know, it's something about it, just maybe it's because we kind of look similar. Maybe it's because he's not that much older than us also. This brother was not marginal, he was not a marginal member of the community. He was a pharmacist, a professional, a community leader, one very much engaged in interfaith dialogue, someone who was building relationships, with people of other faiths in the Boston area. This is someone who was a committed Muslim, someone who learned and taught, someone who used his skills with language to translate texts going back centuries. This was someone who was very active and did so on his own time, as a volunteer. And as the story goes, this is not denied by the government, he was approached in the parking lot of his workplace and asked by, I believe they were FBI agents, they asked him to be an informant, basically on his own community. And not only